Hello, everybody. Welcome back. I hope everyone's having a great day so far. My name is Michael, and welcome back to my little study session here on my channel. Today is December the 10th, 2024, and we are back to studying and trying to teach ourselves some Python. So we are going to first, like in normal, on our, like in all of our streams, we're going to first start out with, some learning. So we're going to continue our learning in data structures and algorithms in Python. We are at the end of chapter three. We have completed chapter three and are working on some chapter three practice problems. And then we will work on adding some features to our personal independent project. Holy cow, you guys. We got a lot of people. We got three people here already. Hello, General Talks. Thank you guys. Peyton Gardner and Dat Steel FN. Thank you so much for um, jumping in here super fast and joining the stream. You guys are awesome. Welcome, my friends. We are ready to learn together. You guys got in here before I even got a Discord announcement to the Discord. Wow, you guys are fast. Making me blush over here. What can I say? Thanks so much for joining, you guys. Good to see you guys again. We're growing a friendship here. We see each other every day, so we um, are getting to know each other quite well here. Okay, let's let the chat know. Hello. Good. It's good evening. Is that sound right? Good. Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. Oh, whoops. All right, you guys. Welcome to the stream. We got the lava lamp set up. And so we'll slowly see this start to melt the wax inside, obviously, and it'll do its lava things, and we'll have a nice little mood set for this evening. I have an incense burning over there. My girlfriend moved my holder. I don't know where my incense holder. I would put it right here as well, and we could watch that go. So let me actually send her a quick text message and ask her, where is the incense? Okay, let's see if we get a response here. Peyton Gardner says, have you ever considered using Markdown for your notes as opposed to raw TXT files? Um, Peyton, thanks so much for that suggestion. That would probably be a good idea to go into Markdown. I just, to be honest, I just don't have a lot of experience with Markdown, and was able to use it, in the, here, let me really quickly pull up the task tracker here, and we'll see my README. So my README is in Markdown, right? Yeah, it's in a Markdown file. So these are just titles. Yeah, so I mean, it probably would be a better idea to use Markdown. So maybe for the next chapter, chapter 4, Peyton, we'll do it in Markdown instead rather than TXT. And then I'll go back through when I have some free time and I'll convert that chapter 3 over. So we'll start fresh in chapter 4 using Markdown. And then that'll actually give us some more practice with the format so that we can get better at writing READMEs too. So I think that'll be a good, actually a double, two-handed sword, double-ended sword, right? Is we'll A, have some more detailed notes, and B, actually get experience using this so we can write readmes and stuff. That kid dude said, I've been watching so many videos trying to understand this chapter 3. It's a lot. Yeah, that kid dude. Do not feel, um, discouraged. It is a uphill battle you're facing with me here. I'm right there beside you, pushing you along. You're pushing me along sometimes. Um, you know, what I'd like to do about it is I just like to let things marinate. Now, this might sound cringy, like letting things marinate, but just think about things, take some time, step away, go do your daily life, but keep that on the back burner. Let it just kind of cook there. Loops. Indexing the range of the length of the list, right? O of n, big theta, big O, big omega. What does that do? What does that mean? And then it just kind of slowly, I was doing that forever, sorry. But over time, it just slowly evolves into you kind of just kind of convince yourself that you know it, and it just gives you confidence to learn from there. And but just by because I think it's just raw trial and error. You're just thinking about it so much that it just kind of sticks. Just like raw memorization techniques. Think about when you were a kid doing like remember you're learning how to read and write, like memorizing English words and stuff. Um, that kid dude says I was going back through your VODs to see how you and chat were interpreting the chapter. Well, do you have any like specific questions we can dive into to like spark some conversation here? Because I'm feeling pretty comfortable with the understanding so far. Obviously I'm not perfect in it, but I'm getting there, and I've done these practice problems are really actually helping. They might seem pretty monotonous, but this whole notation and mathematical viewpoint about coding and functions is a completely new concept. So I'm really trying to grill this into my mind, and so we need these are key for us. Jessen, welcome back. Appreciate you coming in tonight. Thanks for spending some time with me this evening and hanging out. Welcome, my friend. Appreciate you. Hello, how are you doing? Hope everything's all well. Peyton says, yeah, just a suggestion, whatever works for you. I started using it to type my school notes and it's been working pretty well. Yeah, Peyton, definitely. I really love that suggestion. And that's give me whatever you guys think I would want to see on the stream or improve or content wise. And I'm all for it. I want this to be interactive. I want this to be like we're just hanging out. We're peers. You and I just like studying as if we were on campus somewhere, or we're just we're just chilling. We're trying to learn together here. So. Ozzy, thanks so much for joining and stopping in. I appreciate you joining me this evening. Welcome. I appreciate you. I say that a lot, but no, I really mean it. You guys spending some time with me here is really nice. Let's get the problem loaded up while we're talking here in the background. So we got R318 here, dot pi, right? So dat kid dude, try to pay attention here as we work through some of these problems, and it might help you kind of understand this notation more. And feel free to ask questions because by me attempting to answer them, I might, and also take that with a grain of salt. I'm still learning this as well, so we can try to come up with an answer together is what I'm trying to say. Like, what the heck was that? Hold on, something's going on outside. Hold on. Oh, sorry. Just the neighbors were doing. I thought my dog got into something. There was a bang and a clash in the background. Oop. All right, let's get back into the seat here. Yeah, so hopefully we can come up with an answer together, and further expand our understanding as a pair or as a stream as a whole, right? Okay, so we have 318 here. Let's go ahead and try this out. So we need this function here. Show that 2n plus 1 is O of n squared. O of n squared. No, O of 2 to the power of n, right? Like so. Okay. So right off the bat, we know that we're going to be looking for O of n notation. So right, the O of n notation for a quick remember, guys, for function f of n, for a function f of n to be O of n, it has to be less than or equal to some constant c times some function g of n that is O of G of n. That is O of G of n, right? So this is the mathematical function or notation for big O notation, right? Um, Now, like when we actually report this, we leave out constants, so that's going to be key here for some of these problems, I feel. Um, let's go ahead and dive in further. So let's go ahead and replace these variables with what we're solving for exactly. So I'm going to copy this down using Shift, Option, and down for Mac users. I'm not sure if it's the same for users, but Windows, but Shift, Option, down arrow. If you're highlighted on the current line in VS Code, you can just copy that line down. Um, so we're going to just plug in, so show that 2 to the power of n plus 1 is less than or equal to some constant c times, well, what are we trying to solve that's O of, what are we trying to determine that is O of for some bound, right? Well, it is going to be this function here of 2 to the power of n. Right, just like so. All right, we got some comments here. Electric, that's a new name I haven't seen yet. Thanks so much for stopping in and joining. I appreciate you supporting me and leaving a comment on the stream. It means a lot. He says, "When do you start? When did you start this journey live stream and learning?" Well, okay, so I'll just give a quick refresher to the new people here. I started. I have a okay, quick. Sorry, background. For those that don't know, I graduated from college back in the end of 2021. I have a Bachelor of Science in Human Biology and a minor in chemistry. I specialized in kind of and focused mainly heavily in uh, the biological chemistry side of the biology of humans and physiology of humans. Because I was planning on going to maybe medical school or dental school or something, but I shifted past because I really kind of liked the chemistry side of things. Working with elements and all those, and just chemicals and things like that. For lack of better words, we won't have to dive into that. We're learning programming here, but yeah. Shortly after I graduated, I got a job as a formulation chemist for a biotech company, a very large biotech company where I make biological controls for patient clinical diagnostics. So what physicians and other clinical agencies would diagnose patients with to verify their diagnoses, they would run my products that I would develop, develop and manufacture, just to confirm and have that peace of mind and make those diagnoses appropriately for their testing, and not even in diagnoses, but people order these controls for various testing purposes and things like that. So it's super interesting in my opinion, and it kind of does a lot. But I found a lot of areas in my current work and my profession where I have to develop a lot of like chemical matrices by hand. I have to intuitively plug in numbers into certain mathematical problems and equate and like into certain documents to determine like outcomes for theoretical concentrations of solutions. And so I was like, what if I had a computer that could just predetermine these numbers for me rather than me having to, okay, what would this one look like? Okay, now that I don't know, that one wouldn't work if I take from here, and it all had to do this balancing game. What if I had a computer that could do that for me? And that sparked the conversation of, well, how do I even get down that road? And so now here I am. 6 months later, I sparked, not 6 months later, but then at that time I started the CS50P course by Harvard. That was really, really helpful into introducing programming and as a concept and computer science and just a language, computer language. After the CS50P course, I started that in. Sorry, I'm losing my breath here, guys. I'm talking. I haven't talked this much all day. I've been working and in the lab and stuff. So, um, I started at the beginning of summer of 2024, and Um, I very part time did the CS50P course, and then I decided, that I really enjoyed the concepts that was being taught, and then I gave the final project to Stab, and that's what really kick started, and just the light bulb went off of, wow, I can actually make stuff like out of nothing. I don't need to go outside and like with hammer and nails and work on my car to make stuff. I can make stuff like on my desk. Like I can make like something so elaborate and complex just at my desk, and like it's just limited by my own creativity really and my own willingness to learn. And so I then ordered the Python Crash Course book and read all of part one. And this is what sparked the stream. So I was like, I bet there's other people that are in a similar situation to me. I, don't have many acquaintances in my everyday life, and so I also thought maybe this could be a way to generate some acquaintances and some social aspects of my life, and also, just even further solidify these concepts. I have to go back and edit these videos. I have to go back and respond to comments, which I really enjoy doing, and about the concepts. I made the Discord to provide, further, all the resources, the PDFs of these versions of these novels that I've been reading, and these texts. So if you're new and you're interested in joining the Discord, it's linked below. It just is a kind of a roadmap of what I've been doing so far. I'm adding to it currently. Like I said, I have a full 9 to 5, so I'm doing as much as I can, as much as I can, while trying to keep these streams going and learning new material along the way. But right now we're doing data structures and algorithms, and then we'll get to Fluent Python, and then we will get to Python machine learning after that. So we have a lot and obviously we'll add in maybe stuff in there in between if we want new resources or stuff. But yeah, so if there's any questions along those lines, and feel free to jab away. I'm all willing to share about my experiences so far. We've just to show that we are actually doing something with the learning. We fully developed a project on our GitHub, where we have a task tracker application, right? It might seem kind of basic, but it is fully object oriented and uses classes and storage, data storage system. It quickly analyzes these tasks. It can be optimized further. Definitely, I've looked back at this code and I was like, wow, why did I do that? But obviously that just comes with growing. So we have projects that this was our second project. We did the CS50P one, and now we did this one, and now we're currently working on the small business manager project, which is in development right now. It's just we're taking the concepts from our CS50P project, we're taking the concepts from our task tracker, and we're building even further and making a whole like a small business manager to track inventory items, sales, maybe potentially expenses, and then generate reports that are crucial for keeping businesses and reporting business statistics, and managing just a basic inventory for businesses a lot like. So it's going to be very cool, and I think a very nice and a solid program that hopefully people will actually have some real uses in the real world here. So this is just further leveling up our game here over the day by day, little by little. It's not, it's not like the YouTube Guru where it's just like, oh, 15-minute video, and at the end of it you think I'm a software engineer. No, it's 2 hours a day after work, and then 3, 4, 5 hours on the weekends every day, and little by little we're starting to learn more. So that interests you, then follow along. I appreciate you guys, and that's the end of my ramble for the introduction. I'm sorry, I just wanted to share that for those that are new. The channel's been growing very rapidly, which has just been honestly, just I don't have any words to describe. I honestly thought that I was going to be in here for alone, and it's just crazy that I've developed a community here, and I've had some friends, and we're all in this together here. So yes, applaud you guys for that, and thank you. And let's get into the stream today. So, all right, we have some messages. When did you start? Oh, by the way, are you doing like AI machine learning? Yes, we will get into that. Obviously, when we get in, we need to understand these concepts for. We're just building on these building blocks before we get in something too heavy. We want to fill these gaps. We don't want to move forward without having a solid base, or we'll topple over and burn out. So we want to definitely. Yes, Distracted Funny. Everything I am working on here in the stream that you're seeing is all provided and linked just in the Discord as a general area for or conglomeration of all my materials. So I wanted to put it all in one place for you. and it's currently growing with other stuff I'm interested in and other stuff that people are providing. So yeah, African player. I appreciate the kind words. Thank you so much for that. I highly doubt that there's some really smart guys out there on it. It's hard not to compare. Honestly, it's killer, but it's true that it is hard not to compare, and you really have to just stay in your own lane and focus on what you're good at and what you can do, and then just bring that to the table. And yeah, there's some software guys out there that just talk math like it's baby talk. It's crazy. Okay, so let's go ahead and solve this problem, right? So we want to show that 2 to the power of n plus 1, right? So this is going to be an exponential function. We're raising some base value 2 to the power of our input. And we are actually incrementing our input by 1 in this scenario. So this is just going to further tweak our graph slightly. But we know that this is going to, just by the looks of it, probably have a exponential time complexity for big O. But we just want to prove that here with some sort of proof. Now I'm not going to write out an official proof. I'm just going to kind of do comments here to plug in my numbers and show it kind of mathematically, which is what I've been doing so far. So like I said before, this is the function for big O, where some function f of n is big O notation, where they are less than or equal to some constant c multiplied by a function g of n, where the I think it's all n values that are n naught or greater than n naught or whatever, and um, uh, that and then all these constants is greater than one, or right, or greater than zero, or something like that is the. But I just kind of left off all that jargon. So we plugged in the functions here. So we're wanting to prove that this function is O of n based on this function. So this is that gets plugged into the g of n here. So how can we break this down further? Well, we know that just for some exponential rules, I did review my exponential rules before, and we know that by having a number raised to the power of some variable, or raised to any power with an addition happening here, is the same as saying 2 to the power of n is plus, no, I think it's multiplied by 2 to the power of 1. Is it multiplied? Can anybody confirm? I know I just said I reviewed this, but can anybody confirm? Is it multiplied here or divide for breaking down a power that has an addition in the power? Would we make it multiple? Because it'd be 2 to the power n. No, I think it's addition here, right? I think it remains addition. We'll wait for someone in the chat here. So that's going to be less than or equal to, obviously, some constant C1 multiplied. Okay, yeah, it is multiplied. All right, so right, to simplify this expression or this part of the function down further, we can break it down into 2 to the power of n multiplied by 2 to the power of 1, right? That's just an exponential rule we learned in the book. Thank you, Distracted Funny. I appreciate you participating in the chat. That just proves you're watching, and thank you so much. When you multiply, then you add exponents. When you divide, then you subtract. Gotcha. Okay, that sounds about right. So then this is going to be multiplied by 2 to the power of n, right? So as we're saying, all we're doing is just trying to prove this in some way. We're trying to get down to some element, and you'll see where we're going with this eventually. So now what can we do? Well, we have some like terms involved here. So 2 to the power 1 is just 2, but I'm going to leave it as 2 to the power 1 just to show that that's where it came from. And then, so if we go ahead and we can actually divide our 2 to the power, 2n to the power, oh, whoops, we have an n here, it's not supposed to be here, 2 to the power of n on both sides here. So we want to isolate our constant value in this case. So I'm going to move this down. I'm going to take, this is going to become now 2 to to the power of 1 is less than or equal to c divided by 1. So I'm going to put here, I'm going to put a comment here and say, divide both sides by 2 to the power of n, isolating c underscore 1, right? Our constant. We're isolating our constant here because we're trying to prove that for whatever some constant value, we will still remain in O2, because right, we have some constant value being added on to our n value here in the exponent. So we're trying to just prove, okay, does that matter? Like, does this plus 1 differ anything when making our assumption that this is an O of n 2 to the power of exponential time, right? So from my understanding, right? Now take this all with a grain of salt because I am still learning this. I'm reading this book for the first time, beginner programmer, like I said. I'm studying this, so I'm trying my best. I'm just talking aloud, trying to work through these. So again, if I say something wrong, feel free, please correct me in the comments so I can understand this even further. I want to be getting the right answers and filling these gaps in my knowledge correctly. So we divide both sides to, that just isolates that. So what does this essentially mean? Well, if we go back to like our function, right, and plug this directly in, like up here, right, what does that do? So let's go ahead and take this down. Put it right there. And I'm going to plug in, that 2 to the power of 1 right here. Okay? And so, like what we said before, is that this, when we provide big O notation, the constant gets dropped. So what we did was we proved that 2 to the power 1 is less than or equal to some constant value in the circumstance for, this function, is it what it's limited to, right? So we can essentially have a limitation of the constant has to be greater than or equal to 2 to make this come true, is what I'm understanding it as, right? So by plugging this in, this literally represents the c, this is the g to the n, and this is the f of n. The c gets dropped when reporting the big O notation, so this becomes literally, let's take it down to, the c gets dropped, and this is equal to O of big N, or O of 2 to the power of n. Distracted says, this is completely random, but low-key we look alike. You look like you could be my older friend. Well, that is, hello, I appreciate that, and thank you so much for the compliment, I guess. Hello, Gina. Okay, so yeah, so this meets our criteria up above, exactly, right? 2 to the power of n plus 1 is big O of 2 to the power of n. We have proved that directly from our statement up here, right? So that proved exactly what we're trying to solve. So that's the answer to 318. So we'll say plug back into big O equation, right? Line 5. Like that. Justin says, so are you just going through each line and what the equation is doing? Yeah, so like I'm just like what's going on here is this is just showing the operations that's taking place. Like this is the function I'm modeling off of. I'm plugging in here. I'm, reducing this down. It's just as if I was writing this out on paper almost. If that's what your answer, I'm not exactly sure what you're asking. But thank you for the comment. Okay, so 319, moving on. If anyone has any questions on 318, feel free. Let's go ahead and answer them before we move on. But 319, we now need to prove. Oh, whoops. We now need to prove that n is O log of n. So the same setup is going to happen as, pardon me, as before. So we're going to take, we're wanting to solve for an O of n function. We're wanting to prove that n is an O of n, or is O of, sorry, not O of n function, is a big O of n log n function. So we're going to model it after this function here. We're going to say that n is less than or equal to some constant c times g of n, right? Just as, oh, I see, thanks for the clarification. Gotcha, cool, I'm glad that cleared things up. So we have, our function, so c times, right, this is going to be n log n here, and for our g of n, because we're trying to prove that this function here is what is the upper bound, right? This is O n log n, our upper bound, when multiplied against some constant, right? Because it's greater than or equal to our function n, right? This is our upper bound right here, right? So what this essentially means now is that what we can do here is we have like term. We have an n that's being multiplied here across by n by a log n and by a constant. So we can divide n on either side. So we will say divide n on either side. No, on both sides. So that'll reduce down to 1 is less than or equal to c underscore 1 times the log of n. Okay? So we can isolate this even further, right? We need to get this log and the constant on the opposite end of the equation. So we need to divide by the constant here. So we'll say on both sides, right? So if we divide by the constant to isolate our log n and our constant on either side of the equation, our n value from the constants, this will be 1 over c1 is less than or equal to the log of n, right? So now this tells us that for some value c1, what can we do here? So I think, okay, so from what I've seen some, like, some people kind of solve some similar problems, and they oftentimes used, in this case, when they got to this step, they had to use the natural log, like kind of like a template almost. Now this is going to be confusing. I didn't really understand this at first when I kind of went over it when I was watching some videos and stuff. But let me try. I think that's what we have to do here, right? So we need to find, we have this function broken down in kind of the simplest form. We need to now find actual physical values, kind of like what we did in the previous one. We had a c value that we were able to plug back in. So we need to kind of find a value, and it's kind of easy to choose at this point because we want to keep it simple, right? In the whole point of this is to prove asymptotic bounding, right? So that with very large input values, but we can just use a very small input value to prove just this proof once, right? And what you can do is you can use the natural log. Now, if you're unfamiliar with natural logs, this involves the mathematical symbol of e, I believe, right? Where e is equal to like 2.18 or something, like 2.17. I can't remember if it's what the round is, but e is equal to about 2. And the log of e with a base e is equal to 1. So that's what makes it easy to use, is because you get a whole number 1 from a log, right? You get 1 as a result when using log base e to e of e, sorry. Now, you might be asking, well, Mike, if I had this question too, I was like, I had to look it up. I was like, well, how can we use a log base e of e when we're using log base 2, right? Well, if you think about it, all a log base 2 is, right, to n, is some constant 2 to the power of n is equal to what? Some value, right? So this log base 2 of n, right, is just, sorry, 2 raised to some power of n. And we know from our definition of big O notation that, all this is just factoring, or just causing a multiplication of our, a doubling essentially of our output values for every input. So if it was just 1 to the power of n or whatever, then that'd be a different story. But now if it was 4 to the power, then it'd be a quadrupling. So this is just a constant value. The base is arbitrary, so we can use a base e. Is what do you mean, Evero? I don't understand. E equals about 2 is a crime. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not super math knowledgeable on the intricacies. So if I disobeyed the rules and misspoke, then I'm sorry. But it's literally like 2.1 something, so it's close. But it's a really long number, right? Diego says the book is called Data Structures and Algorithms in Python. We're currently at the end of chapter 3. We finished reading that live on stream. We've read all of the book thus far live on stream, and we are working on the end of chapter 3 problems here. It's not a crime if you're an engineer. I'm not an engineer, I'm a chemist, so I have never used E at all in my chemistry, besides for, was an element that has E. Can't remember off the top of my head. You got helium with an E in it, but it's a little E. But with an H. Okay, so so we can plug in the natural log here, right? So like I said earlier, the base E natural log, or log base E, is arbitrary because E is just a constant. It's kind of just saying like log of 2.18 whatever. It's that kind of just to round off E, but this is just a constant value that's being, multiplied by our n, or, factoring our n in some way. So for lack of better words, I'm not, again, I'm not the math guy here, but I'm trying my best. So let's just stop talking about it and let's actually do it now. So we have, I think I have, like, what's going on here? Okay, so yeah, we need to go like this and say, so we'll say 1 over, so we'll say just for some constant, right, we'll use 1 as our basic constant, right, is equal to, less than or equal to, log base E, or sorry, yeah, log, something like this. Evro says, I am an engineer, still a crime. Just a joke, by the way. No worries. I appreciate you joining in and joining the stream. Thank you so much for leaving a comment and supporting me with a comment. That means a lot that you spent some time here. And thanks for joining. I hope to see you again sometime and we can continue to interact. What brings you here? What's your background, Evro? I appreciate you. Same with you, Diego. Okay, so we can... If possible, could you explain what you do at your 9 to 5 job? I really enjoy chemistry and debated about majoring in it, but chose CS over it. Yeah, really quickly, I know I just said it a couple minutes ago, but just for really brief, it's kind of hard to explain, but I make biological controls used in clinical diagnostics. So I make I'll make like a small pilot quantity or pilot scale product, which is just, it means a very small introductory to preliminary to test it out, and then I I go ahead and scale that up once I get approval and all my testing passes out. Through some I do use immunoassay testing to test like various, for lack of better words and terminology, think like sodium. I test levels of sodium, but on like a deeper level, on like more of a molecular level, for like these specific ranges that are crucial in determining like human. Like think about it, if your blood has high certain counts of certain um, uh, particulates or molecules, then you have a diagnosis of something, right? You could be sick with something. So that's what I kind of mimic. I also have made some things like drug tests or pregnancy tests, like things like that that mimic those type of things for pregnant women. Things that would resemble what a human could experience when they come into a doctor with symptoms and things like that. For lack of better words, there we make it's like things like diabetes, and yeah. So, but these solutions are on a grand scale, and then they're just sold in small vials and sampled and bottled down in the millions. So yeah, it's really elaborate. It's like a whole manufacturing, filling, selling, marketing. It's a huge conglomerate biotech, and it's crazy. So much more happens than I think people realize what actually goes on in like hospitals and stuff with that. But Evro says YouTube algorithm. Well, that's exactly what we're looking for. YouTube is promoting us here, and the channel's been growing really rapidly. So I'm having a ball here. It's been great. Okay, so what did we do here, right? We can need to plug in sample values to mimic, like, I don't know, for lack of better words. Is that how you spell mimic? I don't even know. To mimic, how do you spell mimic? Is it I-C-K? No, it's I-C. Dang it. Mimic a input and constant, using simple values, using easy values for math purposes. We plug in 1 for a constant and use log base e of e, where we plug in 1 for a constant and use log base e, where so this is where I need to ask here. So let's do 1 over c1 less than or equal to log n. Can you explain why and how we can plug in 1 for a constant and use the natural log e to prove this? Okay, so you're asking to justify the plug-in for a constant 1, justify plugging in 1 for a constant, use the natural log e to prove its inequality. So in mathematical analysis, particularly in computer science, big O notation constants like C1 are arbitrary, exactly, but fixed positive values. Setting C equal to 1 is often a simplification to test or illustrate a case. If the inequality holds for c is equal to 1, it gives specific instance where the relationship is true, right? So we're just choosing a constant that would work for this definition. Um, in a simple term, in a simple form, right? We're choosing the most simple term as 1. It gives a specific instance where the relationship is true, which can help with constructing a proof. For generality, you must ensure that the inequality works for some c is greater than 0. So rewrite the inequality. If c is equal to 1, the inequality 1 log n. Okay, gotcha. The logarithm base e natural log can also be written as this, log e to n, right? Solving using exponents. No, we need to, it's kind of getting confused of what we're asking it here. It was getting there, but it got confused, so we need to show that. Okay, right, so we prove that we have start with our big O notation, and then we come all the way down, we break this down. All right, so such that, okay, so what they did is they refactored greater than, yeah. I did it. See you later, Theta. I appreciate you joining the stream. Thank you so much for stopping in today. I'll see you tomorrow. Your approach is valid and demonstrates the concept well. Let's go through it. Okay, so what we did is if we made n equal to e, so we'll set n equal to e. Right, that's exactly what we did. Where the natural log of e is equal to 1, since cool. So that proves that 1 is less than or equal to 1. So that shows that for this specific proves that for a c underscore greater than 0 and a n not n equal e, that n is big O of n log n. All right, so proves, so yeah, so African Boy says, honestly, ChatGPT's explanation here sucks. Yeah, it really did. So what we did was, right, we understand that we just need to, we got it broken down into this form here. Now, we needed to do something further. We needed to pick specific examples of, or data almost, to actually plug in and solve to break this down even further and get this log, you know, somehow resemble something here. So what we did was we chose 1 as a constant because by definition our big O notation says that c is some value greater than 0. So or greater than or equal to 0, right? It's a positive integer, so it means that c could be 1 in this case if proven true. So we want to prove that this is true, so let's try to prove it's true. Let's put in 1 for c, and then what can we put in for n? Well, how do we make this easy? Well, let's try to make, let's use a positive value for n, right? Because that's part of our definition as well. Let's use the natural log or the e valued so we can get log base e of to e is just 1 as well to make that easy on us. So we did these examples. We proved that this inequality is true, meaning that our bounds for n is, in this particular instance, O of n log n. One Fit Squad says, have you decided if you're going to apply what you're learning and how? Yeah, so I think what we're going to do is when we get to the actual, like, sorting and accessing data and things along those lines, is we're going to need to actually implement that directly into our small business manager application, right? Our small business manager currently will take in items from the user, and they can bulk add items and generate upwards of thousands to millions of items in their database that could be read in this file. So we're going to have to be able to access these certain data points quickly and maybe even filter them and display using certain aspects. So we will definitely have to keep these algorithms and stuff in mind, and time complexity when managing all of this data that the user could be having. Because for example, the current small business that I'm doing this, that I actually run with my girlfriend, is we have upwards of almost like 1,000 right now individual pieces of clothing that we have in inventory. So 1,000 might not seem large but for two people, that is quite a lot of inventory, physical inventory that you have to manage and go through. Now, for a business, that would be multiplied by like probably 1,000x or maybe 10,000x for all those aspects. So, it just scales. As long as it's scalable is what's important, right? So we'll definitely get there. So we work on these. If you're new, we work on these. This is a small business manager project that I've been building from scratch in my own head without really any help besides just input from the chat whenever they feel like telling me I'm wrong or should do it a different way. But this has just been a passion project after I built a task tracker and the CS50P final project. So just further expanding my knowledge by actually doing rather than just reading and practicing. So yes. Okay, let's get caught up here. Okay, cool. We're good. Okay. Which is true. One Fit Squad says, nice, inspiring. Yes, that's the whole point. It's like, it's really, I think a lot of people get stuck as, oh, I just don't know what to build. I hear that so often, whether it's on Reddit, on YouTube, is I've learned programming, now what? I don't know what to do now. Well, it's difficult because I think with societies, we've been kind of told what to do next by our teachers. We've been told the next class we have to take, or the next project that's coming up, or the next event. But now that it's completely independent, for at least me, where I am doing this all independent, I have to come up with these things on my own. So it forces me now to be creative. So I think if you're struggling and really struggling with what to build, first maybe people like to try to mimic something. Um, I didn't really want to watch someone do something else and copy it over. I felt like I wanted to make something original. Now, there's nothing wrong with watching something copying over if you feel that helps you out. But by making something original, I felt like it also made me struggle, which also made me get better. Um, because I had to figure out how to make it work, right, and to be successful. Especially with like the task tracker and with reading the files, right? That took me a while to figure out, and with making it work right. And I did a lot of runs to make it in trials at making tasks, deleting tasks over and over and over again to figure it out. And just now I was able to add the file reading in one session here in an hour and a half. I was able to add the file reading and writing into the small business manager on my next run, on my next project, because I had that previous grinding already done. Just trust me, guys. Just do it. Just do it. As Shia LaBeouf just said, just do it. I love that video. It's funny. We should bring that one back in the day. Yeah. So, but like I said, if you're at a point where you're telling yourself, "Oh, I just don't know what to make. I don't know what to work on," um, just try to start with something simple. Make a simple function that does one thing. Expand it to another function. Expand it to another function. Start with the menu. Make a menu. Make a little. Would you like to do this? Okay. Then what if I press one? What does that do? Okay. Now if the user presses one, what could he do in here? expand it from there. Like just try something. Just like, it's all limited to your own creativity, I feel like, and willingness to learn. Are you going to try to learn the UI development stuff? Or are you going to be more focused on Python and go for data science and or machine learning? That's where I'm torn, guys. Is I really like the aspect of being able to interact with the UI. I think for the aspects of the small business, sorry, small business manager, it would be really useful and really helpful for, not so code friendly people to work out of a CLI, to get out of a terminal and into an actual desktop platform. So my goal is I'm gonna do a 1.0 version where I get it completely working with a CLI interface in the terminal, and then I'm gonna try to expand to 2.0 if I really like the program into a UI and make that a part of the channel using either Tkinter or PyQt or whatever it is. I'm not sure. Um, we'll have to figure it out when we get there, but yeah, I think for 2.0, version 2.0, once we finish and get a working 1.0 out, we will expand to a UI. But I think though, like I am a scientist, like by profession, so I do have that interest in the data science, machine learning kind of aspects. I think I could do a lot with that too. So, but I do like the design stuff too. I like doing the Photoshop, like my thumbnails and stuff, and I don't know. Um, it's for sure a societal cycle that has to be broken forcefully if you want to escape the infinite loop. See what I did there? Hello. Yeah, I see what you did there. That's funny. Fabio, thanks so much for joining. He says, "Sup, Michael? I'm just behind you as I'm learning Python, coming over from PowerShell and C Sharp only. I just finished starting out with Python and an intro to Python book up to the basics of OOP. What do you recommend for a good second book?" Um, well, if you already know the basics of OOP, have you ever tried to attempt to actually put those into application? Have you, made some classes like our small business manager here or something to, um, that would be my next step is to, do something with that object orientation, put that into practice, make some classes, man it, just for fun, just waste some time. Waste some time. It's not gonna be a waste because you're gonna be learning the whole time, but waste some time doing something that won't actually bring you anything besides further knowledge down the road. It's not gonna bring you but money, right? And I'm not saying that that's what you're wanting, but just waste some time, as I like to say, learning and just by doing. Make some classes, but if you're really dead set on a book, I'm going on. I think the next book would be Data Structures and Algorithms because this one jumps. If you have a good solid understanding of OOP and how it's kind of working, not crazy in depth, but you understand it, you're good. All of chapter one goes into Python, more elaborate Python, and then chapter two dives all into classes and object orientation really heavily, and to get you ready to think about algorithms and stuff. So I think DSA, where the track that I'm going, could be a good next step for you. I think maybe also if you would like to just stay kind of in the same realm of Python, people say that the intermediate to advanced book of Python is Fluent Python. They say that this one is what gears you towards kind of developing more intermediate to advanced skills, thinking more Pythonic and things like that. But I think, actually implementing those current concepts to just re-solidify them before you push forward into deeper stuff is critical. But if you're ready to go into that deeper stuff, the DSA and Python I think is critical because if you're trying to get jobs and stuff like that, this information is vital and it's very applicable to the current market and stuff today, like I said. But yeah. Yeah, I also feel like I'm in that range, beginner to intermediate. I definitely, I feel like I'm still beginner. People might say I have a little bit more experience. I'm not sure. I have nothing to really gauge it off of. But so um, I've only been coding for less than a year, so I for sure feel like I'm still a beginner. If you're unsure about the UI, try building an API in Python to handle the logic. You can test it with Swagger API, and if you decide to add front end later, you already have the back end ready. Yeah, see, that's the thing is I need to learn more about like what actually is API and stuff. Like I don't really know, like besides just the general definitions and stuff, I have no clue how to dive in there. So hopefully we can get there eventually. I'm just also not trying to take on too many projects at once here because I do want to check things off on the. I think it's crucial to complete things, and I do want to get these other stuff that I've been working on done too. But yeah, so let's go ahead and move on to the next problem. That's enough of my yapping here. We need to. I'm sorry, guys. I oftentimes get distracted just yapping away and talking. I don't talk much throughout the day, like I say. So if you get me going, I can kind of keep going. I do a lot of just thinking and analyzing and stuff in my job, so it's pretty independent too. So we are on 320. Okay. So we want to now show that n squared is omega n log n. Okay, so now we're working with omega, right? And the difference with omega is it's the same formula as the above one, except the sign is flipped. That's how I remember it. Is it's the lower bound, right? The big O is the upper bound, so big omega is the lower bound, so that means that this becomes greater than, right? Our lower bound, g of n, some function g of n, in this case, it's going to be n log n times some constant is less than or equal to our function, right? Because it's the lower bound. Um, so let's go ahead and plug in our values here. We have an n squared being plugged in for f of n, which is greater than or equal to some constant c1 times some function that is o log, or there's omega for this function, and it's going to be n log n, right? So how would we go about solving this one? So right off the bat, I can see that we have some like terms on either side of the equation. We have a singular n that's being multiplied here, and we have a couple of n's being multiplied, right? This is just the same thing as saying n times n, right? That this is literally n squared, so we have an n that we can factor out of this. So if we divide by n, on both sides, this would give us n is equal, or is greater than or equal to some constant c1 times the log of n, right? Um, so API just means little functions that say if you connect to me, I will give you something for you to do. Okay, interesting. Yeah, I'll have to look up how to put that into play, really. I would like to, maybe not a lot of people know this, but I do have a pretty heavy passion for economics and for the stock market too. I'm just like I don't know, I'm just like I don't know. My mom says growing up, I can never decide what I want to do, or I can never stick to one thing. I just hop around from stuff. So I, I really like economics as well. And I'm really into the stock market, and I watch select stocks in my portfolio every day. And I do a fair amount of trading, and so I would like to get some trading, maybe some Python, either trading bots or algorithms involved. So, like I'm saying, guys, all of the stuff we're learning in this book is going to play. I have things in my mind I want to do. I got experiences, I got life experiences I want to put on paper. I'm not just like a CS student that's kind of just, in it for the money here. I am an outside third party person that's coming into this realm with because of just a passion and with ideas. So if that's something that interests you, please follow along because it's going to be a long journey, but it's going to be hopefully a successful one. I hope. Anyways, that sounds. I like to be optimistic, so we'll just keep optimism here, guys. Uh, Polarization says I feel the same way. About what exactly? I'm sorry, I can't remember exactly. Then we have, in that case, I think you are open source pre-built APIs you can check out for stocks to get familiar with. Just connect to one of those and read the data. Okay, I'll have to do that. I'll have to look into that. Okay, so let's keep working on. I appreciate the comments. Like, I definitely will look into that. That is something I'm super into. Um, okay, so we have so we have n now is greater than or equal to some constant times log n, right? So what can we do here? Well, we need to isolate our n's, and we have an n on either side. So we need to, I think, divide over our log n on either side. Divide log n on both sides. Right? So this will become n divided by the log of n is greater than or equal to c underscore 1. Okay, so now we are in a situation similar to our previous problem, right? We're in a situation where we have things isolated on either side, and we can plug in some dummy values for what a data set may look like under these definitions and circumstances to try and prove that if this definition is true. Um, Polarization says having a lot of different interests. Yeah, exactly. Like I went through a period in college where I bought and sold like a same car of equal value, not the same car, but a car of similar value, like three or four. Cause I was just like, I just was bored, and I was just I was into cars for a second, and that was a long time ago. Okay, um, so now we can plug in those values that we would see. So let's like so we're going to plug in values that um, are valid for the def of big omega, and to try and prove this inequality true, right? That's our goal here. So let's go ahead and plug in. We're going to plug in E. We're going to use E is equal to n, and C underscore 1 is equal to 1. So we're going to do E is divided by the log of E, right? Which is going to be greater than or equal to 1. So if we do this, right, I'm going to piss some people off here, but this is going to be about 2.18 divided by 1 is greater than or equal to 1, right? And just by this statement, we know that this is true. So this was proved correct. Boom, we're done with that. Cool, we got the right answer. If you have any questions or are wondering how we did this or why we did this E here, please feel free to chime up. I will have no problem going over it. It would just help me even to further solidify my knowledge. So again, if you have something to chime in or corrections or questions, feel free, please. Again, this is data structures and algorithms in Python. We are at the end of chapter 3, and we are doing the reinforcement problems at the end of chapter 3 for today. Okay, let's go ahead and do one more. R 321 underscore key.py. Okay. 321 right here, this guy. So we want to show now that n log n is omega log n. So we're going to copy that equation up from above, right? Our big omega equation, which just says that f of n, our function that we're wanting, that we're graphing or whatever, that we're running or graphing or whatever, is greater than some constant, greater than or equal to some constant times g of n, some function g of n, where g of n is omega f of n, um, is big omega f of n in this statement. So, right, this is going to be our lower bound, right, because the function lies above, which, right, by this statement, or by that symbol. So let's go ahead and plug in our values here for this. So it's going to be f of n is going to be n log n is greater than or equal to c times some constant, right, times omega n, which is going to be n here. So what we're going to do is I see that we can isolate right away. We can divide by n on this side over to isolate the constant in the n values. So we will divide by n on both sides. So this will become the log of n is greater than or equal to c underscore 1. Okay, hold up. Polarization says, I've got a question. If the question is asking you to show that blank is blank, then why are you solving for an inequality rather than a strictly equal one? I think I missed something here. Well, I think it's because the function itself can equal the omega in a simpler form, right? Back when we learned, if anyone else would like to chime in as well, but in my chapter 3 notes, when we learned about these functions, and this is just they're just the base form. So the exponential function in its base form is just b to the power of n. But if we have, you know, b to the power of n plus 1, that just shifts our graph. So let me go ahead and actually pull up a Desmos here. I'll show you. So let's take the function that we're currently working on. Let's take n log n. F of n is equal to n log n, right? So this is the function we're working on. So after some input 1 is where we start. And as our values, our inputs increase, our time starts to increase because our growth rate starts to kind of have a little bit of a linear representation, not too much, but it's pretty close, and then it starts to obviously diverge as it becomes more and more, asymptotic as this relationship up here. Now, the function in its bare bones, if we have another function we're solving for, so let's say that this is our g of n, right? I'll make this g of n. So if we have some function f of n that we're solving for that is 2n times log of n, right? Well, all this did was just rotate or pivot our function, essentially. It just kind of rotated along this axis by some factor of multiplying by 2, right? So for every value of x that we input, so for every, we have 10 here, if I make a value of x equals to 10 here, as you can see, the difference between these two functions where g of n is the one that we're saying on the right hand of the equation, so we're saying f of n is omega g of n, right? Or big O g of n. In this case, we'll just use big O. And we'll just use 10 here as some arbitrary point, right? Our function that doesn't have that 2, right? You can see how that factor is being played into our time complexity. It's just being incremented by 2. But people often, I've heard or been told that people often get this confused with, shifting the overall time complexity. No, 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 no. The growth rate is increased by a factor of 2, right? The growth rate is doubled, but but when we're dealing with big O and time complexity notation, we report the time complexity absent or without the constants. So we report this as f of n is big O log n, n log n, which would essentially have that same asymptotic behavior. Think of it like a root, or it's like a root behavior that it has applied to it. Essentially, it's the upper bound. So it can be n log n, but it is in its base, but it's just doubled in this one circumstance, but it's arbitrary for the actual reporting of what it is. the asymptotic bounding is still present, because if we were to remove that arbitrary constant, our functions just overlap as they are equal, right? That is the bounding. So this is just these limits or bounds at which these functions are reduced down into their most simple form. And then you can just tack on, some constants here to n to make it do funky things. But that's just all this arbitrary, because if we just got rid of these at the end of the day and reported, boom, our functions just line right back up on top of each other. So uh, hopefully that helped understand. You said, that understood. So hopefully that I didn't kind of ramble on too much, but hopefully that helped. That's at least how I understood it, was by plugging in the 10 and seeing, okay, the only thing that's happening is it's just being increased by 2, for that 2 that was being placed out front. But the overall asymptotic behavior is the same. It's just having a new factor being applied to it of times 2 every time. So cool. All right, so back to this. So we're trying to prove that n log n is omega n, big omega n. So we have, right, instead of this being greater than or less than or equal to, when we have a big O, this is now f of n is greater than or equal to, because omega is the lower bound, right? We're saying that our lower bound, or in this case, n times some constant, is less than our function. So we plugged in our n for that bounding. We plugged in our function we're solving for. We divide both sides by n, which we're left with this now. So now what we can do is go back to that same behavior as from before. Is we'll plug in these values. We'll plug in values that are valid for the definition of big omega to try and prove this inequality true. Use E is equal to n, and C1 is equal to 1. Actually, I don't like this form. We see n is equal to E, right? Just to keep it consistent with how we're representing things. Cool. So we'll say the log base E of E is greater than or equal to 1. And we know that this is true because this is equal to 1 is greater than or equal to 1, which is true. Though what Omar says, the way I was taught is that the, quote, transformations made to the function don't matter, as the base function is what results in the main time difference. Yeah, exactly. The constants don't apply any sort of drastic overall behavior. Now I think there are some times where you could have such a large constant for such a small input size that you may get overlap in between some functions but obviously we care about those extremes as n approaches infinity. That's the key here, as n approaches infinity. So let's go ahead and shake up the lava lamp here, guys. Let's shake up the lava lamp and get this thing moving here. Whoa. That's a weird... That's a weird formation. Hopefully it kind of groups up here and makes a blob. Kind of just looks like gunk. Going from 2n log n to n log n is not as impactful as going from n log n to log n. Yeah, the impact of coefficients is negligible compared to the impact of changing, from different overall base time complexities, for lack of better words. Okay, cool. All right, so that is going to do it for this, the DSA in Python practice for today. We're going to rotate and shift focus onto the Small Business Manager project, and try that out. Try to add some features onto that tonight. Let's go ahead and push this up. So we'll say git add uh, git commit continued with chapter 3 reinforcement problems. Oh, shoot. Git push. All right, cool. Let's go ahead and move on to the small business manager here and do some work on this guy here. All right, I appreciate those joining me this evening. Let's go ahead and just check on the stream, make sure everything's going good. Yes, everything looks good. Okay. All right, what we got going on here? So yesterday, if you remember, guys, is um, we implemented the bulk add feature for adding items. So we now are able to essentially add one item, but also have a quantity prompt and can duplicate that add and retain incrementing item numbers every time. So we were successful in doing that. So now we need to finish this date created function below. Um, we need to finish this date created function to kind of finalize this overall creation. So we have this generate date created where we say while true we are continually loop and ask the user to um, use the current. We're going to create a menu using our create menu function that we wrote and prompt the user for use today's date and either yes or no for their answers. If they return yes, then we're going to, or press 1, return none. So we will save the current date as yeah, so by returning none by default within our class generation and creation or our initialization, our date created gets assigned if provided, else it just gets defaulted to today, to the current date. So we need to now add in right here a section that would allow the user to implement or insert a day, and then we need to read that day um, and and save it, right? So let's go ahead and do that. So we have ASCII for 2. We'll say user input is equal to create. So we want to create a menu. We just want to do the input and say just input and say enter past date. And we need to provide a format here. Okay. Yeah, Anthony says the Python datetime package has a nice and easy way to take date as input as long as it's in the form YYY month month day day. Yeah, exactly. That's why exactly, Anthony. Thank you for specifying that. So in datetime, I specified this format here prematurely because I know that DateTime likes this format for creating a time delta. No, 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 not time delta. Is it time delta? Or reading or whatever. So, okay, so if they enter in the date, we need to we need to attempt to do this. Let's save this as custom date created is equal to date time dot is it time delta dot date? I forgot the specific notation. Oh, that's right. So date equals date time. Okay, so this is what we're going to do is we're going to custom date created is going to be equal to the user input. We're going to try and take that user input. And then go datetime dot strip time with custom date created quote. We have a regular expression kind of thing here of y percent month dash percent day quote dot date, like that. Okay, so I can confirm this if I go to my task tracker. So I had to do this in that as well. So if I go to my task class where I have it, and I go here, daytime, where was that? I lost it. Oh my gosh. Sorry. Okay, yeah, datetime dot strip tom date created dot. Okay, yeah, so that's it. Okay. I don't think we need this additional datetime out front. Okay. Okay, so we're going to try and do this, except, so let's go ahead and run real quick and see what happens. Oh. Okay. I'm going to take this out of the try loop for a second, just to see. I want to try and attempt to make this, I want to try to make it error, and I want to see what error it'll give me. So inventory, add item, new, cost 10, item size medium, no. So if I just put in LOL here, okay, then it looped back. It didn't take it. Return custom date created. Else. So let's go ahead and put our try block back and say try this, except if we get a value error, we want to print and say, please use, so I guess we'll need to further say while true here. Please use format okay, like so, and we need to add in enter date. Okay, and then we will if the user presses 2, we're going to we want to clear terminal here. So yeah, Anthony says, is there a reason why you need a parent while true? So this initial one is for this menu here. So if they don't press 1 or 2, then we'll continue this loop. There's no check. I don't have a check involved in the create menu function. The create menu just oh, it does. Oh, I'm an idiot. I forgot I wrote in a while statement here. Oh, that's annoying. So then I don't need it here. Sorry. So anytime that we create a menu, it already has the while loop baked in. I forgot to put that in. So we have a while here to capture this, which we need. We have a while here to capture this. So we don't need a while true here to capture that because it's baked into this create menu. We don't need this because that's baked in. So we'll take that out. Thank you, Anthony, for reminding me of that. So now that does the same exact thing. So now do I want to clear if I get a value error, I'll print and then if I print and then continue, it'll just clear right away and you won't see this print. Invalid. Invalid input required date input like that. Okay, Um, so where was I? The Okay, do we want to clear here? So what did I do before? I said print and then continue. So I don't need this then because the create menu does that already. Um, don't need this then because the create menu does it already. Right. If I press 3 here, what happens? Yeah, it does it already. Cool. If I press 4 here, what happens? Please select a valid option. And then, so my create menu, I say print and then continue. I clear before the print. That's how I did it. Okay, so what we're gonna do is here in the generate date created, if the user enters in here, we'll enter this while loop and we'll say custom date we're going to clear here, right? We're going to clear outside of the loop, and then if we get a value error, we're going to print. We're going to clear here if we get a value error, and then we're going to continue there in the loop. Okay, so now if we run this, you guys, and we press 1 here and go into inventory, go add item, go item name is test, cost 10, size medium, use today's date, we're going to say no. So now we get enter date. Now if we say like just like test, what happens if we say test here? Attribute error. Date time has no. Okay, so we need the datetime.datetime. Okay, let's try that one more time. Test 10 medium no, enter date. Let's do test. Okay, cool, we got that. So now it says invalid date, required date input, year, month, day. So now we'll say we need to add in a space. We need to add in a space right here for formatting. And then we're going to say, we're also going to add in a buffer there, like so. Cool, so now if we go ahead and rerun this and go 1, inventory, add item, test, cost is 10, item size is medium, today's date, no. If we put in test here, we get invalid date, required date input is year, month, date, required date, we'll say format here rather than input. Is that okay? So then if we enter in 2024, or for yesterday dash 2024 what is it 12-09 quantity, and we say 3, boom, is everything working right? And we save, right? If we go main menu, exit, yes, boom, 3 items made for yesterday. All right. Hey, Flashin, I appreciate you joining the chat and joining me today and this evening. He says, "What's the best course to learn Python?" Um, I'm a beginner Python learner, and I started with Python CS50P offered through Harvard Online on EDX. I provide information on that course as well as my personal notes on that course and other information linked in the description below in the Discord. It's a free just conglomeration and compilation of all my notes and study resources from PDFs. Um, uh, and then yeah, so I started with that one, and then I would also highly suggest if you do that CS50P course, to read Python Crash Course alongside it. The CS50 course will help you get started, and it'll show you everything. But if you read this alongside it, it will fill all of those cracks that CS50 has, the few that it does, and it'll solidify and provide you examples and working problems to use and to try out. And then I've read all of this aloud on stream, like as an audio book, literally just me in front of this camera like this, reading it out loud, just like I do with the data structures and algorithms book. And then I'm also going back through and posting solution videos to the in-text try it yourself problems, which are those example problems I'm talking about. So if you pair this with CS50P, in my opinion, it will give you all of the tools necessary to complete CS50P completely. It will definitely save you the hassle of having to maybe look things up. It just really pairs well really nicely. Um, and then yeah, so those are definitely the two places I would start with those two. All right, Gabriel Torres says, big question. You say you are teaching yourself Python. Where do you get these ideas from? Yeah, I just have looked up books. Honestly, a lot of my stuff comes from Reddit. I don't have any other really forms of social media besides like Reddit and YouTube and Facebook and stuff. But I rarely go on that. But um, Reddit I do enjoy quite a bit. I will admit, and uh, on there I just I just you can search a forum, learn Python, search for books, Python books, and I just read a bunch of forums, a bunch of suggestions, and then read reviews, and I just pulled the trigger. I think a lot of people are just scared to pull the trigger on stuff, and I like to say there's an old saying out there. I like to say it is that it's either one day. Everybody likes to say, oh, I'll start doing that one day, I'll just take care of it tomorrow, I'll do it one day. Or instead, you can just flip the words around simply and say today is day one. It's really simple and small, one day or day one, but it's really quite impactful actually. Simply as just swapping the words can completely change the trajectory of your life or have a huge butterfly effect. So, make today that day one that you start, and I made that start like about 6 months ago, and here we are. We got over 350 subs on this channel, which is crazy that people are watching some random guy in his room alone with his dog code. And I really appreciate you guys joining me here and showing me such camaraderie and friendship and being so nice. And thank you so much. So you get these project ideas from Reddit. No, these project ideas aren't from Reddit. I mainly got like the books, what books to read from Reddit, or like just like suggestions about what other people did. But this project idea is completely formulated on my own. Me and my girlfriend, we run a small business online, and where we resell secondhand clothing, and find it a new home. We source secondhand vintage clothing from like the 90s, early 2000s and 80s, and maybe even older than that, and then we obviously we rehome it. We do that to A, help the environment, and B, my girlfriend has a huge passion in fashion and thrifting, and it's just a hobby for her. So we've kind of turned it into a little bit of a business, and it's very small and just very niche and stuff. But um, currently, I have a Excel document that I formulated and created that tracks all of our inventory and converts things to sales. And yeah, it works great, and I can do everything, but I have to manually, if I want something, I have to create it or whatever. But So I was thinking, well, what if I just wrote a program that like did this for me, right? And so that just sparked the idea of this project. So you really just need to find you can create projects, you can remake Netflix, you can watch YouTube tutorials, but if you find something that actually applies to your life, it will give you reason to want to come sit down in front of the computer. I really don't want to be tracking all this inventory by hand anymore. I don't want my girlfriend had to tell me something sold and then I had to go in and find it and sell it. I want to just be, okay, she sold item number 50. I look up, I go to my search find option, 50, sold this much, boom, done. Like it transfers over, it's in the system. Like, so, just really try to expand to your knowledge maybe outside of the box. Think of things in your current life that you do that are monotonous or and if you really can't think of anything, then I don't know. Maybe try to gain some other experiences, so you can find those aspects. Like I'm, it's difficult because I do have a profession and things like that. So it's easier said than done to find things that you can work on and try to. But I can't hold hands too much in terms of providing all that like exactly what to do. But at some point, you do have to be a little creative and decide for yourself what you want to make, and it definitely makes it easier if you're passionate about it. Um, I work as a support engineer right now, but I want to transition into data engineer. I mostly use SQL at work right now. My friend is a data engineer. He also uses a lot of SQL. Yes, I'm aware of that this is why I don't want to do that, but I think they also need Python, right? I'm not sure. I'm sure Anthony's got some answers for you. He's a really smart guy that tunes into the channel quite often. I appreciate you coming in here, though. Thank you, Gabriel and Flash. I appreciate you. Okay, so now that successfully will handle the um, the creation of the custom dates now. So that function, I believe, is finished. So we're going to get a user input. We'll try to create a menu. If they press 1, we return none. If they press 2, we want to clear the terminal and say, while true, we get a user input. We go custom date. Okay, cool. Trying to just see if there's anything that we could add to make this more safe or secure, but it looks pretty good. We have this exception called. All right. Cool. So what would be next for, let's go ahead and let's go ahead git add. We want to commit finished the override date created. Okay, finished override date created feature. Git push. Oh no, not any push. Okay. If you sold, you want to see when it was sold and how much it was sold for, profit, time took to sell. Yeah, Flash, exactly. So, for those that are new here, we are pulling from classes, right? So this is an object-oriented project that we're working on right now, and we're pulling from class instances. So we have an item class, which is our base class, and it's not an abstract base class. It is a class that gets used. So and then we have items that get transitioned into for sale items, which gain a listing price and a date listed. And then we have a sold item, which has a sold price and a sold date sold added on as well. We will need to add an additional feature here for tracking um, shipping charges, right? Like, was it shipping? Was it delivered? I'm wondering. Can we create a class for shipping and provide it as input the for sale, the sold item, super from that the item number? I have an idea. This is getting kind of off track here, but let's take a mode class file. So if we have a mode class file, let's import here datetime just to be safe if we need it anywhere. And then I'm going to create a class called shipping, called shift. And then it's going to close here like that. Yeah, close. I'm an idiot, forgot. Okay, so then I'm gonna def and initialize it. I'm gonna say it takes in the instance itself, and then it's going to have so if we want to super so we're going to associate with the item number, and then we're going to give it a shipping ship charge mode. Okay. Okay, stay with me here, guys. So what we're doing is I'm creating a class called mode, which the mode class will pull and super the init. We're going to super the item number from, and we're going to put in the sold item here. I'm going to say from item class import sold item, right? So we're going to create a class called mode, which is the mode of transportation basically that this item took to reach the customer. We're going to initialize it and give it a item number, and we're going to super the item number with the sold item. We're going to add on a mode attribute, which can be mode is equal to so how do I want to, do I want to give it a default parameter? I want to make it so that they can only enter in a few options, right? We want to say that the mode can either be shipping, so they'll have to have a method, a price, so mode we'll have here will be mode is equal dot mode is equal to mode. So how can I force mode is going to be a string that's either ship so we want to house a mode. It'll have a um, like a date associated with them, like mode date. Okay, so sorry guys, bumping the desk all over the place here. My bad. Is our lava lamp bubbling here? Okay, it is kind of. Oh yeah, it is. Watch, look at yours. Ooh, ha, bubbling. Okay, so the mode that they provide has to be interesting. Anybody have any ideas about how we should go handle this? So what we're doing right now is we're trying to, you know, I'm creating another class that would take in the sold item and generate, you know, information based off of its shipping method, right, or its mode of transportation to the customer. So we would initialize the item, we would associate it with the item number, right, that's sold. We apply a mode to it. We say that so we want to save mode like that. We'll say mode self dot mode date is equal to mode date, right? That's fine. Okay, cool. So now what we can do is this will be for generating shipping methods, or like housing information regarding the shipping of sold items, right? Or the transportation. So if they create this, they would have to supply the sold item, right? That they would be, you know, applying. So it would super the item number from that sold item to, you know, track that it was applied to that item. And then we would take the mode, and then mode would just be either shipping or delivery or whatever, and then mode date. So we'll have mode type. So this will be mode type, mode date. We'll put mode price here first. Right, so then it goes like this. Okay, so mode, we'll have an item number. It'll super it from there. We will save our type as a str. Our price will be an int. Our date will be a str as well. Um, so what we'll say is for the mode date, we'll say if mode date, do the following, set it to that current date, else we'll set mode self dot mode date is equal to datetime dot date dot today, right? So we'll set it to today. Um, cool. Okay, that takes care of that, I think. Anything else we need to track for shipping? Maybe we'll add in an optional. You could put in the mode number, which would be a stir and default to none. So then we say if mode number, if we say if mode number, we want to apply to mode number I guess we don't need to say that because we don't want to give it a default number. So we'll just say actually, we just need to actually just say it once here, like that. Cool. Human Dorm says, I'm just starting to learn C++. That's awesome. That's great. Thanks for sharing and thanks for joining the stream today. And I appreciate you finding the channel. I'm just a beginner programmer as well. I'm teaching myself Python after my 9 to 5 and on weekends. And I'm using the stream as a platform to learn and create a community and expand my knowledge with other people. So thank you so much for joining. I appreciate you. Okay, so what else do we need to take account for like the shipping or like the mode of transportation for this item? So it has a number, a type, a price, um, a date, a number. I think that's kind of it. Yeah. Okay. So now we can apply the mode class to our sold items and we can apply the sold class to our modes, right, and assign them shipping information, right? Interesting. Cool. So now let's go back to our main.py here and let's close up stuff and let's see what's the next feature we want to add before we kind of wrap up for today. We have been streaming we just crossed over the 2-hour mark, so I appreciate you guys joining me for 2 hours this evening. It's honestly, truly, I'm really grateful that you guys are spending your time here with me. You could be doing anything and you're here with me learning Python, so I applaud you just as much. You guys are deserve the applause just as much. Okay, so the program now, if we go ahead and run this, we go, would you like to open the Small Business Manager by Michael Deming? We'll enter yes. We can either access the inventory tab, which will bring us to this page. We can go add item. We can add items here, which will just go run us through that cycle of adding an item where we go item name, where we can test item, which cost will be $20. The size will be, um, if we say like just a random letter here that isn't one of these sizes, then it we it spits us out this message. So we have to provide one of the sizes. We use today's date to generate the item. So we can say yes or no. I will say no. This prompts us into the enter date would be like 2024 dash, let's say it was back in November, on the 21st of November, and boom, and let's say we have 3 of these, boom. Cool, so now if I press 5 and then press exit and then yes to confirm, that will save. And in our files here, we see that we have those 3 items right there created and generated. So we have successful writing of files and as well as reading, because it's detecting these already existing in our file. We know that because it's correctly incrementing our item numbers by 1 each time for newly added items when we load the program with pre-existing items in the file. So let's go ahead and run the program here, and then let's see. We can go to inventory, and then we can remove an item. So if we say remove item, how would we want to go about removing an item? Do we want to have a remove item specifically, an option here? I don't think we should. I think we should remove the remove item option and just make it add item, find edit item, and view inventory. And then within the find edit item is where we can actually remove items. Puppy's trying to get some love here. So let's go ahead and put that into play. So we want to go to our run system function here. We want to remove, no, not here. The run inventory function. We want to remove the run remove item function here. We want to make this, we want to remove this and bring all these down by 1. 3, 4. Then we'll get rid of this. Make this 2, 3, 4. Okay. So now we can go to the find edit item tab. So we have run add item here. Now we can do def find run find edit item. Okay. So this is going to, what we need to do is we need to go user input is equal to create menu for prompt is going to be please enter the item number or item name or number. So we should go by item number. So we should actually ask the user to search parameter will be like this. And then we'll say for our list of options will be the first one will be number, and the second one will be name, the second will be date created, okay. Date created. What other search parameters should we do for items? We filter by the cost? No, I don't think that's. We just search by the name, either the number. We could search by size. Oh, sorry, we need here. So we name, we could search by size, but I don't think we really care for that because we'd rather like view or display by size. We can go item number, right? Date created, name, item number. Okay. I think those are good ones to start out with. So we'll generate this menu. We will say if user input is equal to, we actually first need to clear terminal up here and say if user input is equal to 1, which would associate for the number, we want to then user input is equal to, or we'll run find item function, item by number function, right? Elif user input is equal to quote 2, we want to run the find item by name function, and elif user input is equal to quote 3, we want to find item by date created function. Okay, so super descriptive names here, I know, but it's better to be more descriptive than not in this case, especially for new people popping into the stream so they know what these functions do. So now we have operational, we need to add in some more operational functions that correspond to these guys. So we have def find item by number. So this is going to we're going to ask the user So hold on, let's ask the user for, we'll say while true, I will get user input again, we'll say is equal to input, we'll say item number. Okay. We will ask the user for an item number. We're going to try and ask the user for an item number and then run this function with the user input provided. Except what would we get except wise? We try and run try to ask the user for a string and then try to find it except for so if they try to search the list, so let's go ahead and we'll maybe see what we need to do there. I'm not sure yet. Okay, so now we have find the item number function, which takes in the item number. So I'm going to make this more describable. We'll say this is item number is equal to the input, and we'll say now that this is item number. We already have search no, I'll just leave it as user input, I guess. Okay, so we'll find item number with user input. So we're going to take item number and we're going to try and essentially find so most likely this has, if they're searching for an item, it's most likely because it has been it's need editing, or it's like it's already been entered into the system. It's in the items category. Naj says you could do a match case instead of the if block. I'm not as familiar with match case. Match case statement in Python is a powerful tool for pattern. Okay. So match status code with those values. So we can say match input with case 1 return. Yeah, we could definitely do a match. We could say, is there any benefit? Is there upsides to using match cases versus ifs, elif? Yes, there's several upsides using match case over if elif. Here's a comparison: readability, maintainability, reduces if for readability. Example. Interesting. Yeah, we could definitely put a match case instead of the if statements here. Thank you for that, Naj. I appreciate your comment. Okay, so if the user, so if we want to find item by number, we need to, I'm trying to think about this in terms of efficiency, right? So this is going to be an O of n time. We're searching through the items, searching for a single parameter. It's going to be in linear time, but we might be able to have like a lower bound of that's slower, not not all the way slower to a constant time function, but we might be able to have a lower bound. We definitely have an omega of a big omega of one because it could be the first item found. But we can maybe optimize it to become closer to O big omega for a or for big O closer to constant time, not constant time, but we can reduce it down by maybe thinking about this a little bit intuitively. If the user is searching for an item, it's probably because they need to edit an item, whether it be like the price or the date they got it, or it's not likely that they're going to search an item within this screen, um, uh, to change some to. I mean, if it's already been sold, if the item's already been sold, it's most likely um, it's just been logged away, sent off, and gone. So I think it'd be a waste of memory and of efficiency to check the sold items or the for sale items first. I think we should first check their items, then check the for sale items, and then check the sold items. Um, so we should say um, for the item in all items with the key items. Um, if item dot item number is equal to item number, then return item. So this will only return at one unique number. Um, so elif so we'll first say if all items. We'll first check, if there are any items in this list first before doing a search. Else, elif all items for the key category of for sale items, we'll do the same thing, and then we'll say elif all items sold items will be our last one we search through, and say for item in all items quote for sale items sold items return item, else return none. Right? So now what this does is essentially it creates O of n plus O of n plus O of n for a total time of O of n, for upper bound of O of n. Now we do have a big omega of O of 1 time or constant time, um, if we were to find the first item, if there's only one item in the list, but that's pretty rare circumstances. So we try to optimize even further by specifically searching the items list first, then the for sale items, kind of intuitively predicting that they most likely wouldn't be searching um, the sold items when trying to find an item in this category here. Okay. So now if you come back up here, this will return an item here. So we'll say we're going to try and do get user input. We're going to try and use that user input to get an item. We will return this value as found item, right, is equal to that, and then we will say except what could get thrown here. So except found item is equal to none. We want to we'll say clear terminal here, and then we'll say we'll say print no item with item. Say no item. We'll say item yeah. We'll put the user input. So we'll try and take this string that the user provides. We will try to use it to find some item number, to find an item using this item number. If we find an item and return back, we will obviously need to do something with that item. Print found item. Okay, let's see what happens here. If I print found item here, and then we will they can't find an item number, we don't want to continue. Want to break. Was unsuccessful. I won't clear yet. I'm gonna take the break out. I'm gonna put the break down here. Okay, so what's gonna happen is we're going to, so I'll clear this out. So what's gonna happen is I'm gonna run the program. I'm gonna enter 1. We're going to inventory. We're going to find edit item by pressing 2. This brings up search parameter. We can search by item number, item name. So we'll say item number, item name, or item date created for the parameters. So let's go ahead and clear and then try that one more time with an updated. So boom, inventory, find and edit. Right, now we have item number, item name, and item date created. We'll filter a search parameter for 1. We'll be asked the item number. We'll say 1. And then this should print the dang. We're not accessing any item. So let's just take these back and say actually if found item is equal to none, print this and break. So while true, I'm just gonna put a break statement here. No. Okay, we say while true, we get the user input. So actually, I don't think I want to do that. I don't think I want to do that. So I'll just ask for the user input. I will convert it. Okay. Find and edit item number 1, none. It's not finding an item. Interesting. So what we're trying to do, you guys, is I'm trying to ask the user to provide an item number, and then I'm trying to find item by number using that item number and return. And so if the found item so if all items, if there are, search this and return the item. elif there are all items in this, search this. Elif there are items in this, search this, and return. Else return none. Okay, that looks right. So then, why are we still getting none here for found item numbers? We'll say number here. I think I was getting confused with the variables. Okay, so now what happens if I run this? 1, inventory, find, item number, 1. I got none again. Not sure, but you can make search the key value pair instead. What do you mean, Naj? I'm not sure what you mean by that. Appreciate you though. What do you mean? So we're still returning. This is still getting us none for found item. And if it's not found, it should be printing this. So let me go ahead and I'll compass this in a while loop just so it freezes at this point. Yes, all items is a dict, but all items is the key values of all items is not the individual item number. We have it's like a so all items takes a um, all item takes a where is it? Yeah, see all items we load key as items, key as for sale items, and key as sold items, and then we load in returning lists full of those items as those values for these keys. So it's kind of it wouldn't work for that, unfortunately. Um. So why exactly is so while true, ask for the user's item number, print, return the user, print that. Well, okay, I'll run. Yeah. Item not found, 1. So it's definitely here. If all items, go ahead and search them. For item in all items, if item.item number is equal to number, return item, which is what it should be doing. Item number is an it's an int. Ah, not a string. That's why. Okay. That is exactly why. So what's going on is we are getting an item number. We need to try. That's why I was doing the try earlier. I couldn't remember why I was doing the try. So we need to try and take this and then convert it to input integer here. Except for a value error. We want to clear. So we'll say print, please enter a integer whole. Right, please enter a whole integer or number, and then we will continue the loop. Or clear the terminal as well, right there. And then cool, so now let's try that. Inventory, find edit by item number 1. Woo! Yes, you guys. All right, we successfully found item number 1. So now let's run it again. So now this just put us back into this item number statement. So we need to, if we get the item number, we need to do something here. Right, so you've accessed the item, you have access to that item now. It's saved as found item, the individual. So that object is saved here under this variable. So now we can manipulate it. Like we can now that you have that item displayed, we can you can edit it, you can do whatever you want to it. You're found the items, and now you can do what you want to. You need to edit it. So do something here, edit item, etc. Attributes, etc. Cool. So that's super nice. So we got it to work appropriately. So now what happens if we actually insert a number that isn't in the all items list or in any of these? So we don't have an item number 37 yet. So what happens if I enter in 37? None. So it returns none, and then because I'm printing found item, it's printing none. So item not found, 37. Item not found, item number equal to 37. We'll say item not found, item number 3. Okay, cool. So we raise our own error there, pretty much. So can we say except okay, cool. So now what's happening is if I clear this out, go here, run, go into my program, inventory, find edit by item number, let's edit number 35. Boom. That gets brought up, printed, item number 35, test, medium cost, 2000, date created 11/21. Let's go check, make sure that's item number 35. Item number 35, test, medium 2000, 11/21, 24. Sweet, that's so cool. Okay, so now it keeps prompting us for the item number because we are um, don't have anything after this statement here to continue. So um, oh, it needs to go. This goes up here. Sorry. Right. Do something here. Cool. That's really neat. All right. Next, I think that's actually going to do it for me today, guys. Any questions on what we did here? So, um, let me go ahead and say um, I'll break here just to no. So print. So if I break here, no, I need to break. Um, Here. So if I break here, what? I think that'll work. Maybe. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So right now what we did was if I start from the beginning of the program, if I run this, you guys, and press 1 here, so this enters, so we can press 1 to enter into the business manager. We can press 1 to go to inventory. We can, like we did before, we can add items such as new item. We can give it a cost of 1. We can give it a size of large. Today's date. We added a feature to now where we can, instead of using today's date every single time, we can now say no, enter in a date, a custom date, and say 2024. 2024 dash 11 dash 01, right? And then we'll say we have 2 of these. And then if we go to find and edit item, we can edit by item number now, or search by item number to find that item number. We'll search by 38 because we just created those items, and those were loaded, and we broke out of that right there because of that. So let me go ahead and just delete that break statement. Go 4, 3, yes. And then as you can see, our items, those were created right there. Cool. All right. What else? So we need to do something here. Right. Do something here. Edit item attributes. Okay, cool. So if you found item, if not found item, then print this. And then we'll, at this point, break out of the loop. Right. else, right, which means you found an item, we're going to print break so this goes right here in the else block. So we'll do something here to edit the item attributes. All right, cool, you guys. So just to show you what's going on right now, I'm actually gonna I'll put right here print found item. Okay. All right, cool. Just to show you guys what's going on right now. Today we added in a couple of things. So I'm gonna go to my items class. I'm just gonna remove some of these just so we can generate some more. So I'm actually gonna take them all away. Boom, they're all gone. So now I'm going to go ahead and run our program as if we're running it for the first time. We have no items in our files. We're gonna press 1. Right then and there, it would have read our files and try to detect anything. All right, we can go in. We added in a couple of features today. We added in the inventory tab, right? We can now, in our add item, so if we press 1 and add a new item, we'll make this new item test. For the name, for the cost, we'll make it 10. For the size, we'll make it a medium. And so right before, we were only able to select 1 here to use the current date, to load in the item on the current date. But what if the item was bought in the past and the user just wasn't getting to it in time? Well, we need to have the user be able to override to a current date. So we will select 2 here to use a different date. And now we can actually use a date in the past to go ahead and override that default setting of the current date. So we'll use October, we'll use Halloween, right? And then we'll say we have 20 of these items. So now if I go ahead and press main menu and exit and we save, as you can see, all 20 of those items were created with incrementing item numbers every single time, right? Everything else is duplicated, but that item number is increased every single time, uniquely for each item. Okay, so now what we added also in today is when we run our program and enter in, those files are already get read and stuff like before. So all 20 of those pre-existing tasks were just read and loaded into the system. Now we can go ahead and do inventory again. And now we added the find edit item parameter or tab here where we can press 2 and we can search for the item. We'll say like item search parameter. And now we can physically, we'll say 1 to use search by item number. We'll say 2 to search by name. And we'll say 3 to search by the item, the date created. So I'll search, we only added in the number for right now. So let's search by number. We're prompting with the item number here, which is, we'll say we added 20 items. So let's say, for example, if we try to find the 21st item, remember we only added in 20 items, so we don't have 21. So if I say 21 here, we're going to get an error, and it looks like we have a break happening here before it can actually print that what's happening there. So let me delete that break and try this program one more time here. Go yes, inventory. Find edit by item number, we'll say 21, right? Because this should not be there. In our items, we only have 20 items, right? We have 21 lines, but only 20 items because we have a header. So if I say 21 here, boom, error, item not found, item number equal 21. Cool, so that gives us that error. Now it repeats the prompt. So if I say, okay, what about for item 20? Boom, now I just have a print here showing that we are successfully pulling item number 20, item name new. This is just the actual repr that I signed to the model, the physical print of these objects in the class itself for class item class, right? It has this repr function here, which just, when called, it actually prints the instance in some form. So now tomorrow, I think what we'll do is we'll just obviously clean up some of this flow, how it loops and things like that to get out of this menu. We also need to add like an option to go back, and things like that in case they like accidentally end up in this menu or just want to exit out or things like that. They currently are forced to go through, and find an item and then are stuck here at this point. So we would have to say if print error, and then they would have to, at this point, we would break and then print the error probably. Um, so yeah. Anyways, this was very successful today, and thank you to those that stuck with me for the long haul. We got streamed almost 3 hours today, 2 hours 55 minutes. Very successful. Like I just said, I do have a 9 to 5 job, so it does take a lot out of me to come on these streams after my job and really focus and things. But I want to learn. I want to get better. I'm grinding away. I'm putting in the effort. So hopefully, things can happen for us in the future, and we can set ourselves up for success. And again, if you're you could use -1 on an empty input to go backwards. What do you mean on an empty input to go backwards? For like our on an empty input to go backwards. Yeah, I'm for indexing. Yeah, definitely. Like, but what are you talking in reference to? For like for our generate item number, we do that. We access the negative first item in the list to see if there is the last item to increment that item number by 1, right? So we do have that being played here. So for those that are new here, that are asking, this project I'm working on is completely independent. It is a completely project owned and formulated by me. I've created all of it just through my own imagination and thinking here and processes. But this is not a project out of any book. But I do read at the beginning of my streams the Data Structures and Algorithms in Python book, where I study DSA and current concepts. And currently we are at the end of chapter 3, working on the chapter 3 reinforcement problems, where today we solved 318, 19, 20, and 21. Tomorrow we'll solve 22 through, I'd say, probably 27, and then the day after that we'll solve 28 through 31, and then we will go ahead and, or 28 through the end of them, and we'll be done and continue on with chapter 4 and get into those. Like as user input if you enter into the wrong menu. Oh yeah, we could use -1 to go back or something like that for sure. So yeah, we'll definitely have to implement some feature to be able to escape these menus at some point, just like with the else statement or maybe with that match condition we might need to do. So I always forget about that match condition that Python offers. But also, if you guys are new, we have a Discord link below where I've put all of my resources into one place. So all the PDFs for the books I'm reading, Python Crash Course, Fluent Python, DSA in Python, Python Machine Learning. I also put links to all my CS50P information. I put links to my personal notes for Python Crash Course. I provide you the repo links for my DSA and everything. So if you guys want all that more, one-on-one access to all that information used on the stream that I'm using to learn, feel free to join the Discord. And I stream every day from 7 to about 9:30 p.m. And then at least I try my best to, and then I stream on the weekends for about 4, 5, 6 hours sometimes, and get a lot of work done on the weekends. So thank you so much for watching today, guys. Please follow along and subscribe if you're enjoying these. Like I said, it does take a little bit of effort out of me to do these after work and keep motivated, but the channel's been growing very nicely, and I'm super motivated and thrilled. I couldn't be happier with it, and you guys are making this, so much worth it. Just the interaction I'm getting and the positive comments, telling me that you guys are learning from this. You guys are, improving alongside me. That's exactly what I wanted and we're we're peers in this. You and me, we're equals. So I appreciate you guys joining me. We are 30 seconds away from being at the 3 hour mark, so I think I'm just gonna wait for that, just to cut it off at the even 3 hours and let it be at that. But uh, if there's any questions, you guys, please feel free to reach out to me either here or on the Discord. I'll respond to you guys right away. I love talking to you guys and building up this community. I'm really passionate about this, so I want to keep this going and I want to keep these projects going and learning as much as I can. And yeah, I hope you guys are motivated too. So I'll see you guys later. This is the 3 hour mark.